started recording.
Okay.
Hold on, my hair is my face from the fan. Okay. Okay. Hi, and welcome to episode 14 of C3 Crystals, Cauldrons, and Cocktails. I'm Wren.
And I'm River.
And this week we're going to talk about altars. But first, what are we drinking?
So, Wren has made this blue concoction, which is fabulous. And we're calling it the Blue Moon Martini.
It's not that fabulous.
Well, I've had a shitty day, so right now it is fabulous.
Okay, fair.
So you said today we're going to talk about altars, and the altar is actually the most common tool used by witches.
Yeah, so a definition of an altar is usually it's a raised structure or place on which sacrifices are offered or incense is burned in worship, often used figuratively to describe a thing given great or undue precedence or value, especially at the cost of something else.
I mean, it makes sense because a lot of witches, although not all witches, practice their magic in conjunction with a religion.
Yeah.
And altars you usually think of as being associated with some kind of religion. You know, it could be Wicca, there's Christian witchcraft, there's Fey witchery, there's all kinds of religions that are out there.
Yeah.
And I think Wren's going to talk more a little bit about religious altars in a minute. But for me, it's really just a place where I practice my craft because my magic isn't tied to any kind of religion.
Yeah. Yeah, mine neither. And it's interesting to think about because the first use of an altar is before the 12th century.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been around for a while. And I want to look back, and I didn't do that much like digging. I just kind of like simply looked at what is an altar and how are they used. But I want to know how they were used back before the 12th century.
I mean, the Druids and the pagans, I don't know. They were in the 900s, right?
I'm not sure. I would have to do some more research on that.
You know, did you know that they actually think Stonehenge might be a form of altar?
Oh, I think I have heard like bits and pieces. You know me, I'm always reading about what some theories and stuff could be. And so I think somewhere I saw something small like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge one.
Yeah.
But an altar just the same.
Yeah.
I mean, it was thought that perhaps they did magic rituals and things there.
Yeah, I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, according to Wikipedia, an altar is a structure upon which offerings such as sacrifices made for religious purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Altars are found at shrines, temples, churches, and other places of worship. They are used particularly in paganism, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, until the second wow, I'm already messing up. Until the destruction of the Second Temple in Judaism and modern paganism. Many historical faiths also made use of them, including Roman, Greek, and Norse religions.
Yeah, I was going to say the Vikings for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I feel drawn to Norse mythology and
Mm-hmm.
everything. So that was definitely one thing that I wanted to make a note about.
Mm-hmm.
And so architecturally, there are two types of altars.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, this is like the only source that I found it on. I think it was Wikipedia. But it was very interesting. So there are those that are attached to eastern walls of a channel or...
What is that?
It's a
like
wall.
a church?
Yeah,
A wall of a
yeah.
church?
And those that are freestanding to be walked around, for instance, when incensing an altar.
Oh,
and
yeah.
In a church, you walk up and you have the altar full of candles and incense or pictures or something.
Yeah. When my husband and I got married, we got married in a church with an altar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so with an altar, when you say architecturally, when I think of an altar, it's usually a table, a stand, but I also saw pictures of where they were in like a little nook in a wall, which I think was really cool. And that's what I thought of when I thought of like attached
I get you.
one,
Yeah.
but that's not what it's talking about. That's what I thought it was talking about, but that's not what it was talking about. And so to me, an altar can be whatever you want. It can be to whomever or anything you want it to be.
Yeah.
And
Like to nature or to a specific deity.
it can be to a specific god or goddess or something you want to dedicate your altar to, and you also don't have to have an altar or have anything that it's dedicated to.
That's true. You know, my very first altar, I had my very first altar before I even knew what I was doing. I didn't even know at that time it was an altar. I was probably 8 years old, maybe.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what witchcraft was at that point, and yet I was already practicing it.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
It just came naturally to me. But my first one was on top of my dresser. I had this cool little dresser, and it was underneath this window that the full moonlight would shine into. And this dresser had a little ledge up on the top. I don't know how to describe it. It had the flat surface, and then it had this rounded ledge. And on top of that, I put a little Buddha. And I had various rocks and things that spoke to me whenever I would go on nature hikes. We did a lot of hiking when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I had candles, and it was just a very special place to me. And it wasn't intentionally an altar, but it most definitely was looking back.
Yeah.
My dad thought I was crazy. He made fun of me for having it, hurt my feelings when I was that little. But I loved it, especially when that full moon came in through the window. I felt the magic.
Yeah.
I felt the energy.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. But generally, an altar can be anything and anywhere, like Wren said. In fact, when I go to Wren's apartment, it looks to me like she has a lot of different altars. She's got these adorable wall-mounted boxes. That's not the right way to describe it. But she puts her crystals in some and plants in some and candles. So to me, she's got these different altars all over her space.
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
So altars basically are as different as each individual witch.
Yeah.
What else do you have?
So I have, well, first off, when I was researching everything, when I was looking, trying to find information on altars, all like with witchcraft, all that came up in depth was about being Wiccan, because Wiccan really surrounds itself with its altars and what it dedicates itself to.
It is a religion.
Yes. And so you definitely do not have to be exclusive to Wiccan religion or Wicca or anything. So there are many religious faiths that require / have altars, but you definitely do not have to fall into any category that have one.
Yeah.
So first, an altar doesn't have to be super special if you don't want it to be. It doesn't have to.
It could be functional.
Yeah, and it can just be a surface that's you put your coffee mug on. Like, it doesn't have to be anything like that.
I need to chop up my herbs, and that's just the counter space that I use. I mean, a kitchen counter can be an altar.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a special table or a place you are always by. It could be something as simple as a windowsill, a bedside table, a coffee table, or even a shoebox.
I love that idea. Then you could carry your little altar around with you. Oh, I love that. You know, Etsy has a whole bunch of shops that have these little altar boxes.
Don't I know it? I always look and I'm always like, ooh, should I spend my money? No, I shouldn't spend my money. But if I had the money to just spend on whatever I wanted, I would be definitely buying all the witchy things off of Etsy.
Oh, me too.
Like everything. You should see all my favorited and like my likes that I have saved.
I've got stuff in my shopping cart that I just really want to press that button, and then I look over and there's my husband and I'm like, no, he would kill me.
Yeah. So whatever you feel fits your needs, and whatever you're looking in an altar is what you can make your altar. The one thing that it should have is a flat surface so that you can place objects without having to worry about them falling off, rolling off, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, second, a question I always ask myself is, does the altar need to be a sacred place or space, or can I just have it and let it be anything that I want it to be?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is up to you. So I prefer it in a space where it's private and no one can touch it. Like, if I have people over and it's in my living room, I don't want people walking over and be like, oh, that's a cool rock, or oh, that's a cool candle, and touch my altar. Like, no way.
Do have stuff in your living room that I would consider altars, but maybe you don't.
Well, we'll get into that a little bit more, but people don't touch that type of stuff. I feel like if it were on a specific table, because I do have a table I have in mind that I want to create a permanent altar on, and if I had that in my living room, what?
That table that you made.
Yeah. If I have that little table in my living room, then if I have things that are important to me, I just don't want people to touching them. The other things that I have around my house are important to me, but I guess I don't mind if people touch them because they're cool. They're cool, like little knickknacks. So I want somebody to interact with those, but if they don't put it back where it was, then I will have a problem with it.
Wren's OCD, y'all.
Yes, I am. I do have form of OCD, which is another topic in itself. So yeah, it's up to you. And I said I prefer it in a private space. So when I have people over, and my husband won't touch it and mess it up. So I keep mine a little bit everywhere in the house. But like I said, I want a more permanent one because I move my stuff around all the time to kind of, if the vibe is off that week, then I'll move around my stuff and it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Kind of like a feng shui type thing. I know you're going to say something a little bit later.
Yeah.
But my house to me is an altar. And I know that this is easier said than done because my house is only 600 square feet. Like, it's a small house. It's an apartment.
Apartment, yeah.
But this is what my altar looks like. Like, it's 600 square feet, but I have two tables by my couch that have stuff. I put stuff on my my actual dining table as like a centerpiece, and then I also have my shelves on the walls that have my Buddhas and have my crystals and my plants.
I love your candles too.
And my candles. I love my candles. So you want to make sure that your altar is in a location where it can be cleansed as well, both physically and spiritually. Again, that's not mandatory, but I know for me it's nice to keep a clean space.
Right.
And there are some people who have altars that like keeping them at certain locations of the house. So like north, south, east, and west, as well as facing those directions, like certain directions too. There's no right or wrong way, but it's just like about attraction. I feel like, and I would have to do a little bit more research on this, but the way that you face your altar, north, south, east, or west, attracts something different.
Yeah. I never really thought about the feng shui of altars like you were talking about, but it does make perfect sense. It would also be cool to have a mobile one because some spells need to be facing a certain direction or be tied to the elements that are for that direction. Like north is earth, east is air, south is fire, west is water. I think you've got more to say about that later. But it can also even be in a closet if you don't want other people to see it. You know, that will keep it safe and out of sight, and also away from pets. Because if you keep herbs and things on them, you know, and you have a cat, your cat might eat your herbs.
That's very true.
You can also have a digital altar, which I had never thought about. I came across that in my research today. And your book of shadows can be online. You can keep your spells on the computer. It's not the same as a physical one. You can't place something on a table if it's digital.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is a more modern approach to it. And if you want to try it, give it a try. I like that you can change the backgrounds. There's so many cool witchy pictures out there. You know, you can even decorate your computer version. I've never tried it myself, but I think it's kind of clever.
Well, actually, you just said that, and I had never thought of it like that before. And I could say that my computer is and my phone are set up in a way, and I don't know if it's because I'm organized or if I just
OCD.
want it to be. I am OCD, so there are things that bother me, and what's the word I'm looking for? Triggers my OCD.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things is my computer, and I have everything in the same color folder, labeled properly. My desktop is a solid color because I cannot handle things like that aren't solid color with my desktop.
Too distracting?
Yeah, I think so. And so you could say that is an altar, but I technically wouldn't. I also wouldn't say it's an altar of mine, like a digital altar.
Kind of the folder that I have for our podcast is an altar in and of itself, because I have so many witchy things in there, because we're constantly doing research and we're constantly talking about different spells. And I've got all that in my C3 crystals, cauldrons, and cocktail folder.
Yeah.
Which I guess is kind of an altar.
I see. I could get that, but I could also see where I could argue that it's not as well.
Yeah.
So, what should you put on your altar? And candles are always nice.
Of course. I like altar cloths before you even get to the point of putting things onto your altar.
Yeah.
I like altar cloths. Again, Etsy has some beautiful ones. They have some weird ones too, which some people like the weird.
Yeah.
But it makes for easier cleanup. I have several so that you can change them out to suit your mood or the spell or whatever your intent is. You know, I've got some with cats on them. I've got some that are the pentagram. It depends on what you want. So I think an altar cloth for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I also think crystals. I love my crystals, and I feel like I have like my own crystal altar in my bedroom. I bought this adorable little triangle shelf with the moon phases on it, and I keep all my crystals on there. Well, not all of them, because I have way too many.
She has way too many.
I keep my most precious crystals on there for like safekeeping, and I would say that that's of my very own like crystal altar. Like it's just like something dedicated to keep my crystals safe. So you could do both. You could have your own crystal altar. You could have crystals just on your altar for different meanings and energies that you want in your altar.
At some point, we're going to do a podcast episode about crystals and what the different meanings are. I can't either. We'll have several, just like we are on herbs. There's so many things to talk about.
Yeah. Next is incense. Incense is a long history has a long history with altars. It goes back before the 12th century with the incense. So incense is always good, but again, it's used for different purposes.
Yeah, or smudge sticks. Oh my Lord, I said smut sticks.
Wow.
I didn't mean to.
Wow.
Okay, you made these drinks.
Listen. I didn't say you had to chug it.
They're good. They're very good. They're blue, you guys.
They are. They're very pretty.
Okay.
So next is tarot cards. And I like that idea, keeping your tarot on your altar.
I have so many tarot decks, though, my altar would be covered.
Yeah. I mean, I have 2, and I do want more, but they are a little pricey sometimes, so I am grateful for my 2. And you can also keep your Book of Shadows, if you have one, on your altar.
Which I think is a great idea, because that's where you're going to write your spells, or that's where they're already written. Yeah. That's where you're going to want to take notes on what you're doing, what your intentions are. So, yeah, I think your Book of Shadows should be right there on your altar.
Yeah, or at least close by.
You know, and if you don't have a Book of Shadows, then at least paper for writing down spells and affirmations. And it can be fancy paper, scented paper. It could just be white paper, whatever.
Any paper. And then you can also keep plants, which I love because I am plant heavy. My whole apartment has plants in it. So I like the idea of like a simple plant or maybe a intricate plant. And then also symbols that to who you're dedicating your altar to, if you are. So such as like a statue of who you're dedicating your altar to, or candles for that I don't want to say deity, but that what's the word I'm looking for? That energy, I guess. I'm going to say energy.
I like energy. That's a good word.
Candle to that energy that you're dedicating your altar to, or crystals even.
Yeah, I like having a chalice on mine, preferably with wine in it.
Do you ever find it that it's disappearing because of whoever you're offering it to, or because of you?
I'll take the fifth on that. Let's say it's my ancestors.
That's it.
I also keep my charging dishes on there, which I use my charging dishes for all kinds of things. Sometimes I put the burning piece of paper that after it burns and I'm about to burn my finger, I'll drop the remnants into my charging dish. Sometimes I keep my crystals in them, or sometimes I have moon water in my charging dish. So I always have a charging dish on my altar.
Yeah.
A bell is also something. A lot of witches cleanse the space before they start a ritual with a bell, and they end it with a bell. So a bell would be good. I also have the Himalayan salt and other herbs that I might be using.
Yeah.
They're always around my altar, especially the salt.
Yeah, for sure. I also think that Sabbath decorations are an amazing idea. And you could place your Sabbath decorations depending on the time of day, or like the time of month, or even in the year as the Sabbaths are occurring.
I think that's a great idea. I do know witches who change out their altar every Sabbath.
Yeah.
And not only does it honor our yearly cycle, but it also ensures that the altar is kept clean and fresh.
Yeah.
You can also keep your athame or your wand, or both, on your altar. You might have a besom, and on Etsy I've seen these little tiny ones that you can keep on your altar that's for sweeping up your little altar. They're
love
adorable.
That.
So basically whatever tools you're going to have are going to be a reflection of what type of witch you are, what's personal to you. A fire witch might have her cauldron, because when she burns things, she might want, or he might want to put the burning in a cauldron, which is fire safe. An air witch might have a feather. It just all depends on you. There isn't any right or wrong. You just follow your heart and your gut instinct.
Yeah, I feel that. So why have an altar? So, well, it's certainly not a requirement, but it is nice to have one to maybe focus on your intent and have a physical space. Having a physical space helps with those. Or it is a place of worship and magic and practice, or prayer, or tarot reading, or anything that you think you might need for your practices.
Yeah, sometimes if you're a witch that believes in spirit animals, that might be where you would connect with your spirit animal, or your gods or goddesses, or even an ancestor.
I forgot.
Wren was telling me about this TikTok video that she watched. We've got to pull it up because we got to put the link in it, but it was hilarious. It was about the ancestors watching this girl do her magic, and she wasn't practicing her shadow magic, so she couldn't get in touch with her ancestors. And as the ancestors were talking and making fun of her, one of them was eating a cookie, and they're like, "Where'd you get the cookie?" And the other one said, "Oh, it was on the altar."
Yeah, that was my favorite. I loved it. I watched that whole video and I was like, I wonder if any of my ancestors or spirit guides were sending me TikToks, and I've just been ignoring them, or even signs, and I've just been ignoring them.
Send us cookies.
Yeah, and the part with the cookie just got me, and I'll try to post it if I can find it again. But it just got me because it was like, "Oh, where'd you get that cookie?" And it was like, "Oh, it was on the altar." And it was to me, it was just like, "Oh, that's perfect."
Yeah,
because that's exactly
funny.
what we leave those things on our altars for.
Yeah,
and it
they're
was
offerings.
Just perfect.
I love it.
Yeah.
And also, an altar can be used as a memorial, or a memorial type shrine.
That's true.
You do see on the side of the road when someone's died somewhere that there are sometimes memorial shrines there.
Yeah.
To keep the memory of who's been lost.
Yeah, that's true. And I hadn't thought of that as an altar before, but I could see that. And there are different types of altars. So there's a traveling altar, a semi-permanent altar, and permanent altars. And I feel like you guys can guess what they all mean. Because, like, traveling altars are altars that move with you. So it's like you were saying, cloth. And, like, let's say I have a couple of crystals and maybe a small candle and my cloth that I have. I can just bundle it all in my cloth and take it wherever I need to go.
Yeah, you could even, bundle the cloth like a little hobo bag.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And you can set it up wherever you are in time of need for one. So a semi-permanent one is one where you might have it on your desk, or you might have it on a coffee table, but you need to move it or relocate it every now and then. So that's not like a permanent home for it. And so it's just semi-permanent.
I feel like those are perfect for the ones that when you're going to be casting spells that you are required to face north on this one, or because then a semi-permanent one you can move without any trouble. Yeah.
And then I think you guys guessed it. A permanent altar is an altar that never moves. And it is designated to one spot for its time being. So that's what I was saying. My area at my home is basically semi-permanent altars, because they have a nice home for a little bit, and then I need to change the feng shui of my house, and I'll rearrange everything. Nothing ever sits in the same spot, and nothing ever goes in the same spot. I always have different organization ways of where I want to put my stuff. And what I want to do is I have a little table that I want to be a permanent altar. So I never touch that one. I never move it, but it might be hard for me because I always have to change something. I live on change.
Right. Yeah. I have an altar room.
Yeah.
And so my altar itself isn't necessarily permanent, but it's always within that room.
Yeah.
That is my safe place. It's where I can focus energy on myself. And so my altar room is permanent, but my altar itself changes.
Yeah. I like that. Your room is permanent. So kind of like my apartment is a permanent altar
room.
Altar space.
Hey, honey, my apartment's my altar room.
Yeah, welcome to my altar room. Not like our apartment, but my altar apartment.
Yes. I do like the idea of having more than one, though.
Yeah, I like the idea, but it stresses me out because if one vibe is off, then it's just all off.
Well, and also I have special tools, and which altar do I put that tool on?
Yeah.
So I can see problems. Well, then you just got to buy more tools. That's all.
Oh, no.
Yeah, my husband just shook, and he doesn't know why.
Yeah. So elements and tools. Now we're on tools. The 4 elements in witchcraft and magic are utilized mostly when we cast a circle and evoke them through calling the quarters. However, each element relates to a different type of non-physical energy. Each element also has corresponding tools and should be represented on the altar if you work with them. So earth is like a salt dish.
That's like my charging dish.
And then altar pinnacles also represent spirit, crystals, stones, and the direction is typically north in the northern hemisphere.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about other hemispheres. Yeah. Sorry, you guys down under. But also, she's laughing at me. She's done with me. So also with earth, think of maybe green candles and potted plants to bring that earth element into your altar.
Yeah. And so for air, athame, some say fire as well. Feather, censer. Is that how you pronounce it?
I don't even know what that is.
And incense holder.
Also for air is the yellow candle, feathers like you said, but I read wind chimes.
Wind chimes.
Which I thought, so you don't lay those on your altar. You hang them above your altar maybe?
And a censer is a container in which incense is burned, typically during a religious ceremony.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. But it also says incense.
It makes sense.
Sense.
Okay.
Wow. Incense. Okay.
We're having fun drinking, guys.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So water, like chalice, cauldron, or bowl.
Blue candle, seashells, a bowl of water, which my charging dishes that I use would be perfect to hold a little, or my chalice when it doesn't have wine in it.
Oh yeah, the wine that you drink.
It's my ancestors, I swear it.
Sure. And then so with fire, you have wander and athame and candles.
Red candle, red stones or crystals, dragons, and I'm like, yeah, this has got to be me. My altar room, I have dragons all over my altar room. I love dragons. So I feel like I'm either a storm witch or a fire witch. But anyway, a lot of the tools that we use will depend on whatever the magic is that we're working.
Yeah, that's true. And with you saying that about the dragons, I'm surprised you think that you feel that the carpenter bees that you have around your house are your familiars instead of like some sort of reptile like a lizard or anything like that.
Well, fire witches are also connected to the sun. And the carpenter bees thrive in the sunlight. They come out in that time of year right as spring is happening, which honestly is not my favorite time of year, but it is when my carpenter bees come out.
Yeah, but if you think about it, dragons are pretty cool and they breathe fire, and so that goes into your fire obsession.
I do love dragons and I do love fire. Love the fire. See, I mean, I am as happy sitting out here in the sunlight in the summer as I am in the winter with a fire burning in the fireplace.
Yeah. So would you say that your outdoor area is kind of like an altar to you?
It might be.
Because you have things set up in particular spaces.
I do.
I mean, other people enjoy this space as well in your household, but
I have 2 wind chimes that are dragon wind chimes out here. And that is so fun. We are out on my deck right now doing the podcast.
And you have plants and you have candles out here.
I do.
And I feel like this is just like another altar of yours.
I love that idea. I think so.
And I feel like my outdoor balcony could also be one, because that's where I have all of my plants. I was gifted from you, actually, a while ago. You gifted my husband and I this lovely, adorable little pottery holder, and it burns fire. And you can put like the citronella to keep away the mosquitoes.
That was your housewarming present from us.
Yes, it was. And I use it every time I'm out there when I don't want to get eaten alive by the bugs. And so I have like my little, it's not a candle, but it lights on fire. So it's like something similar to a candle, and I have my plants,
cool.
And I charge my moon water out there. And I think that is also an altar. Like my whole apartment is my altar.
I think your whole apartment is your altar.
Yes.
Well, apparently my whole house is, because we're out here on the deck, and I think you're right.
Just the deck in your altar room.
I never really considered it, but I think you're right.
Yeah.
It's definitely a sacred area. I bond with nature outside, and in my altar room is when I'm more self-aware.
Yeah, and I think that it's funny that you say bond with nature outside because you have a TV on your deck. Yeah, you bond with nature while you watch television.
Hey, I'm a modern witch, okay?
Okay. I hear you.
Well, that's all I've got.
That's all that I have, too.
I would love to hear what you all have. Send us pictures of your altars. I would love that.
See pictures of y'all's altar. Like, tag us, send them on Instagram, or share them on your story. And again, tag us, or Twitter, TikTok. You can send us a video, Facebook, everything. So, that's all that I have. And you guys can find us on our... At C3, yes, at C3 Witchy Podcast, on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. My brain's not working.
Facebook.
And then you can also go to our website, www.c3witchypodcast.com. There you will find our links to our social medias, as well as Patreon, as well as our merch. Am I missing something?
Subscribe to us on our website.
Yes.
Today we should be getting our monthly newsletter out within the next day.
Yes.
Because we're at the first of the month. So actually, by the time you all hear this, it should be out.
It should be out already.
But if you subscribe and give us your email, I will make sure that we email you that newsletter.
Yes.
And then definitely come support us at our Patreon. There's an actual donate button right on our website.
Yes.
It takes money that both of our husbands aren't too thrilled with, but this is really important to us, and I hope it's important to you guys. So
yes, regardless of income of this podcast, we are having so much fun. I love sitting and talking about this stuff, and I love being able to inform y'all, and y'all like talking back to us. I know that you guys talk to us on Instagram and our comments, and we love to talk back to y'all. We love to see, and I guess it's part of getting like the affirmation that you guys are listening and enjoying us, because I had some doubts that some people, not everybody's going to enjoy us, but I love the people who are like us and who understand what we're talking about and actually enjoy what we are saying and interact with us.
Yes.
So yeah. So, like I always say, y'all won't see us, but you guys will listen to us next time.
Yep. Hear you, see you.
Yep.
Whatever next time. We'll be back.
Yeah, we'll be back. I like that. We'll be back. Y'all will listen to us next week. Thanks.
All right. Bye. Good Lord.
Oh, man.